Hello again. Now, the month of March is known as the human rights period in the country because the day is commemorated annually on the 21st of March. South Africans use this day to reflect on the struggles and sacrifices that paved the way for democracy and the protection of human rights. Built upon the tragic events of 21st March 1960, on this day, 69 people who were protesting peacefully against the apartheid government's past laws were killed and injured at Sharpeville. Many of them were shot from the back. The vulnerable and marginalized continue to experience human rights violations, which are evident throughout South Africa. Let's speak now to Advocate Tseliso Thipanyane, who is the chairperson of the South African Institute for Responsive and Accountable Governance and the former CEO of the South African Human Rights Commission. Advocate Thipanyane, good afternoon. Welcome to today. As we begin this Human Rights Month of South Africa, we thought just to begin to reflect on what's working, what's not working. My first question to you this afternoon is, what would you pick out as the highlights of our human rights journey since 1994?
Good afternoon to you. Yes, I think for me, really, the Constitution itself is our biggest highlight, as well as the establishment of democracy and the establishment of a number of institutions to help us, to realize the journey of South Africa, which we want. So bodies like the Human Rights Commission, Public Protect, and so forth. But also, I think, the freedom of attained in the struggle against apartheid, those are very important developments, including the laws which we have established to give effect to the vision in our Constitution.
Lowlights?
28 years later, the lowlights are the continued high levels of poverty, unemployment, inequalities in our country, and recently, of course, the challenges in governance, as seen, through the series of load shedding incidents we're having in our country, and high levels of violence and corruption. And actually, as far as I'm concerned, this is actually putting at risk the very vision of our democracy and freedom and what we fought for in Sharpeville many years ago.
Okay, the cabinet issuing a statement the other day about its recent meeting and noting that the theme for this year's commemoration of Human Rights Month is consolidating and sustaining human rights culture into the future. In your view, what needs to be consolidated?
Well, I think for me, the issue of governance and accountability is the biggest factor we need to address going forward. Otherwise, we'll definitely put the whole vision of the new South Africa at risk. So government has to deliver, government must be held to account, parliament must play its role as well. But more importantly, Dan, we as people of this country, as the shareholders of companies South Africa, also have to ensure that those who have put in power are delivering the mandate. But we also have to take responsibility as citizens as well. I mean, the level of crime in our country and corruption cannot go on at this level without us as citizens being more actively involved in really fighting for the dream, which people in Sharpeville fought for and died for.
Some people are pointing out that there's an increased criminalization of the state or state capture and corruption, and those can erode a human rights culture. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and actually the poor levels of governance in our country, national, provincial, local government, are indeed putting this country at risk. And something needs to be done drastically if we really want to consolidate the gains of our democracy and the gains which our people fought hard for after Sharpeville and even before.
Yeah, the government earlier this week calling on South Africans to continue to work towards what it called inclusive socio-economic development. You've pointed to unemployment, poverty, and inequality as being some of the biggest challenges. Do you think if those are not addressed over the next 30 years, we're almost 30 years close to marking the 30th anniversary of democratic South Africa, do you think the focus should be on addressing inequality?
Yes, inequalities in terms of race, gender, as well as the equal distribution of wealth. South Africa is a very rich country, but we have very few people owning the bulk of the wealth of this country, and most of our people living in poverty. Over 70% of Black South Africans live in poverty. They don't have land, they don't have jobs. And this basically, it means a lot of our people are excluded from the new South Africa or from South Africa we want. And if we don't address these issues, we really risk being a failed state, unfortunately. And it's very painful to say this.
Thank you very much for your time and reflection this afternoon. The chairperson of the South African Institute for Responsive and Accountable Governance, Advocate Tseliso Thipanyane, as we talk about Human Rights Month, which is this month of March that has just begun this week.